Good morning. Um, Want to talk about something that's seems like it's always a topic out there in the social media atmosphere, and pretty much just the minds of people, and it's really been a big issue nowadays. And it's the idea of forgiveness. And I think a lot of us have seen what the young brother, Botham Jean's younger brother, did to the police officer that, or former police officer that shot Botham John. And people have got different sides of it. I want to address it from the Christian biblical perspective. The reason I want to do that is because, one, the brother who was killed was a Christian. He was a worship leader at his local church. His family, deeply spiritual, deeply Christian family from Africa. And wanted to just kind of throw some Bible out there to really get people to understand this point here. Forgiveness is not about making the other person feel happy. So you do to me something, but I decide, well, I'm going to forgive you. It's not about making you happy. Also, forgiveness is not about not making sure the other person meets their justice. Just because I forgive you does not mean I don't want the legal system to work properly and if necessary put you behind bars. Forgiveness is an act of self-care. That's one. Forgiveness is also an act of self-preservation. That's two. And forgiveness is an act ordained by God. That's three. We all know about self care, right? We all say, "Well, I'm gonna forgive you for my peace, so I can move on." So we can all talk about the Dr. Phil metaphysical self help mentality of the idea of letting things go. Jesus talks about that as well. If any place rejects you, kick the dust off of your shoes as you walk out of there. Meaning, don't carry none of that rejection and none of that mess with you onto your next assignment. So we know the Bible says about letting go. But um, we wanted to go to Matthew, book of Matthew, 18th chapter. It starts the 21st verse, and this is where Peter comes to Jesus and goes, "Hey, Jesus, how many times should we forgive people? I've heard we're supposed to forgive somebody 7 times." And Jesus responds in probably one of his more famous verses that people misconstruct, or sometimes it causes people to even just reject the faith altogether. When he says, "No, you got to forgive 70 times 7." And Jesus is throwing this random number out there, but it's an expression to say, man, you forgive as many times as it takes. You keep forgiving. And people take this and go, why am I going to forgive when so did me wrong, or that why should we forgive? And I seen a comment that said we are a broken people because of what this young brother did. But people stop at 1822 and they don't read the parable that Jesus talks about at the bottom of that. After, from 1823 to 1835 in Matthew, Jesus speaking to people he knew wasn't going to fully understand the jewel and the law and the intricacies of the mind of God that he was about to lay down. So he laid it in a story, and he talks about the unforgiving servant. And he talks about a master calling his servant to him and saying, "You owe me this debt." And the servant falling to his knees and going, "Have patience with me, my Lord. Have patience with me, master. I'm trying. Your humble servant doesn't have it. Have patience with me." And that tugged at the heartstrings of the master. So he said, "You know what? I forgive the debt. I don't even need to have patience with you. Ain't no more debt." And then the servant is like, "Thank you, master. Yes." So happy. Walks out of the master's chambers and runs into a fellow servant that servant owed the just released from his debt servant a bunch of money, but not as much as he owed his master. Let's say he owed his master $150,000. I'm just throwing numbers out there because he uses specific numbers in the Bible. But then let's say this servant owed this other servant maybe five. And he goes, "Hey man, where's my money?" And this servant does exactly the same thing that the newly released from his debt servant did in front of his master. He falls to his knees and says, "Have patience with me, brother. Have patience with me. I don't have it right now. Have patience with me." That servant said, I ain't got no patience with you. Forget you. Took him and got him locked up in debtor's prison. And debtor's prison back in those days was like, hey, the debtor's prison people would pay you the debt, maybe give you a discount on it, and then work that person, or pay you the whole debt and work that person in prison till what they see fit was enough to pay back the debt with interest. So basically got him locked up to hard labor for that. When the master found out about what his servant did after he just released him from his debt, he called him back in and said, after all that I did for you, after the grace I showed you, you show that to one of your fellow brothers. You do that to one of your fellow brothers. Nah, nope. You still owe me that money plus interest. I'm taking everything from you. He punished that servant even more harshly. All right. Jesus says in Matthew 7:2, judge not lest ye be judged. There's 7:1 and 7:2. Judge not lest ye be judged. And whatever judgment you judge, you shall be judged with. Whatever measure you met out shall be measured against you. And he says in the Matthew chapter 5 verse 7 in the Beatitudes, blessed are those who show mercy, or blessed are those who are merciful, because they will be shown mercy. Mercy means compassion or forgiveness shown towards someone with whom it is in your power to punish or harm. The Old Testament, the old law was, if you did me wrong, I could do you wrong right back. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, foot for a foot. I'll give you life for life. But Jesus came and he said, nah, man. If you want mercy, show mercy. That's the parable of the servant. God is sitting there saying, all the stuff you do that I've forgiven you for, all the mess, all the times you cursed my name when you didn't have enough money in your pocket, all the times you cheated, all the times you slept with so-and-so's wife or so-and-so's husband, or you lied, or you did this, or you stole that. You knew that extra $50 wasn't yours, but you put it in your pocket anyway. You went home and you begged for my forgiveness, and I showed you grace. But the minute somebody does something wrong for you, you want hellfire and brimstone for them. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. God will pay back. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to see you go through the legal process. You know, Jesus always says, man, Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, render unto God what is God's. So we do live in a world where we got to play by the laws of society. Yeah. You murder somebody, you need to go to trial, you need to be found guilty, you need to go to jail, you need to be sentenced, and you need to do your time. But me forgiving you has nothing to do with that. Me forgiving you is saying, you are not worth my soul. You're not worth my eternal damnation. You're not worth the misery in this life of me carrying that around. You're not worth God looking at me and going, you're not showing grace when no sin is greater than the other. You're not going to show grace. Okay, we'll see next time you ask me for some grace. And see, this is the thing that it's in the Bible. The thing about it is, it's not to make you feel like God is going to punish you or God is evil, but it's to make you feel like, man, take into account all the times God has shown you grace before you show somebody else grace. It doesn't necessarily have to be a murder. People talking about that. How many of us are not forgiving the person who cheated on us 15 years ago? Or not forgiving the person that still might owe us some money that they done disappeared, and you hear their name, you get tensed up, you get miserable. When you don't forgive, a part of you dies. And that's what that young man, in my opinion, was doing. He was preventing himself dying. Because she would have killed more than just his brother. She would have killed him. She killed his mama. She killed his dad if they carry around that unforgiveness, both in this life and in the next. So I look at it this way, and I'll say this, and people can take it how they want. I have heard people defend folks who get on TV and start talking in ways that people can't understand. And they'll say stuff like, oh, when you hit a new level of consciousness, most people can't understand you. You woke now. So-and-so's woke now. That's why they said that. That's why they started talking about energies and flows of electrons and quasars and protons and neutrons and all that stuff is fine and well. I dig it. I dig it. I like to think on the edge myself. But what he did and what a lot of people who do things like that do, they're woke too. They're woke to something deeper than just acting like everybody else in society. You're we're peculiar. We're set apart. So I would say to my fellow Bible believers out there, don't look at something like that and then try to see the world justified. Because some people will look at it and twist it for political reasons. You see some of these programs showing it and trying to make it seem like, oh, maybe she doesn't deserve that sentence. Well, she deserves what she got, and she deserves a little bit more in that sentence. I honestly, the way the case laid out, they really went lenient on the sentencing guidelines, but that's a different debate. But I'm focusing on the fact that what that young man did was more woke than what I've seen anybody on social media talk about as being woke. He was woke to something more spiritual than a lot of us are willing to do. He's living it because he's understanding that, man, unforgiveness kills you. Unforgiveness kills you. There's enough people out here like walking dead zombies because they hold a grudge and they're petty and angry and they always got something to say. They're judging everybody. Everybody's this, everybody's that. When they go through the storm, the first thing they want to do is look at everybody else's life and judge and be mad that they haven't gone or they're not going through a storm when you don't know what storms they've gone through or continue to go through. Unforgiveness, grudge holding, judgmental, it kills you. It kills you in this life and in the next. Forgiveness is about self care, self preservation, and it is an act ordained and explained to by God Himself. That's just my thoughts.